I'm Madelyn Tandry of DIY Salvation, here with the listen-only version of TROM 101, which also appears in text form on our site and video form on our YouTube channel. TROM stands for the resolution of the mind. It's a self-studied, self-applied method of resolving your mental and spiritual condition. All materials for TROM study on this channel and on our website, bettertrom.com, are 100% free, and you can learn TROM by watching our videos, listening to our lectures, or reading our books. Through the study and practice of TROM, you'll get into the now, diminish the effect of trauma, and put your inner conflicts to an end. And it takes study and practice to accomplish such, and we're here to help you every step of the way. I'm going to define some terms, give you some examples of TROM theory, then tell you how the 5 sets of mental exercises used in TROM help you achieve that ideal state of mind I just told you about. We'll start with what a postulate is. A postulate is an intention. You could also say it's a purpose or goal. Examples would be, I'm going to have that member of the opposite sex. People are going to read the novel I just wrote. I'm going to forget this ever happened. No one must ever find out what I did. Those are all postulates, or in simpler terms, statements of intentions. Postulate is a $5 word that actually has a very simple meaning, but many misunderstand it at first. Dennis Stevens, the man who researched and developed TROM, discovered there are 4 basic postulates: to know, to not know, to be known, and to not be known. All postulates contain an element of at least one or more of those basic ones. Think of those postulates I just mentioned in terms of the 4 basic ones. I am going to have that member of the opposite sex is a postulate to know that person. People are going to read the novel I just wrote is a postulate for the novel to be known. I'm going to forget this ever happened is a postulate to not know that event. No one must ever find out what I did is a postulate that what was done is not to be known. Life is a game, and without postulates, there are no gains. Postulates in conflict bring about gains. Postulates in agreement end them. To help illustrate how postulates and games relate to each other, let's talk about 4 different women who have 4 different attitudes towards men. The first one doesn't care either way whether or not she has a man. The second gets attention from men with some harmless flirting. The third one overwhelms men into paying attention to her. Whether she does this by how she looks or how she acts, she must have that attention no matter what. Then there's this 4th woman who's interested in a man one moment and the next she's not. That first woman who doesn't care either way isn't postulating anything. She has no intentions towards men. She's not playing any sort of game at all. The woman who is engaging in some harmless flirting is playing a voluntary game. She seeks to persuade others, but she's not using force, and she's not taking the game too seriously. But then there's the woman who must be known. She's in a compulsive state. The game is much more serious for her. Let's say she wants the attention of a man and he ignores her. He's resisting her must-be-known postulate by not knowing her. We now have a compulsive game between her and that man. Just for the sake of demonstration, let's say the woman is so bent on getting his attention, one day she overwhelms him. In plainer terms, she seduces him and finally gets his attention. He's forced to change his postulate. His postulate has failed, and he is overwhelmed into changing it. Get that? She successfully overwhelmed him. We have a term for this kind of overwhelm, and that term is forced to know. The man is forced to know the woman because of her overwhelming postulate that she must be known. Previous to that, when the man was ignoring her successfully, her postulate to be known was failing, and he was preventing her from being known. We're going to talk about these 2 kinds of overwhelms, preventing from being known and forced to know, a little later in this presentation. So just make a mental note of those 2 things. The woman wanted to force the man to know her, and the man wanted to prevent her from being known, and that's a compulsive game between the 2. It's a more serious game than that of harmless flirting, which is a voluntary game. Now what about the woman who wants a man, then rejects him? She wants to know a man, and as soon as one approaches, she not knows him. She's operating on a postulate and it's negative. To know and to not know. Also, you could say that maybe she plays this game with men because she wants to be known and not known at the same time. When one operates on 2 opposite postulates like this, they're in a state of insanity. She's not going to get carted off to the loony bin just for teasing men like this, but it's insanity nonetheless. From these examples, we now know the 4 conditions or states one can be in, from the highest to the lowest. A no-game condition, a voluntary games condition, a compulsive games condition, and insanity. In a no-game condition, either there are no postulates, or all the postulates are in agreement with each other. Postulates or intentions have to be in conflict in order to have a game. So just below that, you have the less serious games, which we call voluntary games. We used harmless flirting as an example earlier, but you could also call games like chess or basketball, and so on, voluntary games. It's when you force others to agree with your postulates and the game is more serious that you've now descended into the compulsive game state. And if you descend even further, you'll reach insanity, the state where you're not just in conflict with others, but in conflict with yourself. Most of us are in compulsive games conditions. We must be seen or heard. Others must agree with us. This or that must not happen. Instead of getting others to agree with our postulates by communicating or playing voluntary games, we now just force others to see things our way. These compulsive games are settled by overwhelms, or the conflicts just go on, never resolving, and perpetuate in our minds. Ever try and forget a past event, but you can't? Ever find yourself arguing with someone in your head? These are some of the compulsive games one plays with their mind. Conflicts, overwhelms, past trauma all form what we call mental masses. A mental mass is a tiny amount of substance in the mind. I'll give you an example of a mental mass and follow it up with how such a mental mass can be handled. Earlier in life, a man was bitten by a dog. That event remains in his mind as a mental mass. Later in life, he goes to a friend's house to watch the game, but his friend has a dog. He sees the dog and wants to go home, whether he's aware of why or not. He identifies that dog as being the same dog that bit him as a child. For the sake of our example, let's say he's aware of why he's afraid. He tells his friend about his fear of dogs because of being bit once. His friend asks, "Was the dog as big as this one?" And he answers that it was. Was it the same color? Not exactly. This dog's name is Sparky. What was the other dog's name? Musty, he answers. He reaches down to pet his friend's dog, no longer afraid. He's aware the dog has some similarities to the dog that bit him, but he can clearly see now the difference between the dog from his past and this one. He forgets about his childhood trauma for the moment. He and his friend watch the game, and all is well. These theories about postulates, games, and mental masses can be organized into a body of knowledge about the mind, and then formulated into mental exercises designed to resolve one's mental and spiritual condition. On TROM Level 2, one views objects from his past next to ones in his present. The man attacked by a dog can view that dog next to an object that's different, noting differences between them. He also notes similarities between the dog from the past and similar objects in the present. He's kind of doing the same thing on himself that his friend did with conversation, but he's doing this in a more systematic and effective way. He can do this with all sorts of objects and people from his past, and the longer he persists on this exercise, the less command power his past has over his present. When you view the past and present at the same time, it's called time breaking. You're breaking the temporal separation of the past and present, and breaking the illusion of time itself. On Level 3, instead of just comparing past and present objects, you recall full events while maintaining awareness of the present. For example, that man bit by the dog wouldn't just compare that dog to objects. He would experience the moment of the bite, while at the same time making sure he stayed in contact with the present. He continues until that incident de-intensifies, then fades back into the past. When you've time-broken enough of your known past to the point you can bring objects, people, and events up to the present, and none of them bother you anymore, you then address the overwhelms that led to the upsets. On Level 4, one gets the idea that he's being forced to know, and moments when he was overwhelmed like that will surface, and he time breaks them. Remember how the man was overwhelmed by the woman's postulate that she must be known, and he was forced to know her? Something like that could appear, as well as other times he was overwhelmed in such a way. When he's addressed the overwhelm of being forced to know, he gets the idea of preventing from being known. Like when he ignored the woman, for example. He continues down a list of overwhelms, like being prevented from knowing, forcing to be known, and so on. punching them into his mind, time-breaking more and more as he goes through cycles of stimulating his mind, then resolving the incidents. We go into more detail about how these overwhelms work in the TROM 101 installment titled The 8 Classes of Overwhelm. So if you're not quite getting all this, have no worries. Much of what we are going over today is going to be broken down further as we go along. On level 5, one not only gets the idea of the overwhelm, but also how his opponent's postulate overwhelms him. It's similar to level 4, but on level 5, you not only get the idea of being overwhelmed by someone else's postulate or overwhelming someone else with yours, but you actually play out both sides of it. So let's start with being forced to know. On level 4, you are just getting the idea you're being forced to know. On level 5, you are going to hold your opponent's postulate that he or she must be known, while holding the postulate that you must know them at the same time. You put the postulate of must be known outside of yourself as someone else's postulate, then you hold the postulate of must know yourself. This will stimulate your mind to produce material to time break, and you keep time breaking until there's nothing more to work on. Then you change your postulate to must not know while your opponent keeps their postulate of must be known, and you time break whatever shows up. It's all about creating the conflicts and overwhelms yourself to stimulate your mind so you can resolve more of your past. Now you may be wondering why I didn't mention level 1 first. It's because I don't think one truly appreciates the value of level 1 until they know what the other exercises accomplish. So I'll explain now. These exercises will rid you of mental masses. Don't worry, your memories will still be there. They just won't upset you so much. But losing mental mass makes you feel imbalanced, and you'll attract more mass to yourself to replace what you've lost. That's why on TROM level 1, you learn to replace lost mental masses with mental creations of your own. It's a process of creating things around yourself, then getting the idea someone else is creating things around you too. It's an easy exercise to learn, but make sure to watch the video or read the instructions in the manual before you try it. TROM exercises lessen the upsets that form mental masses in the mind by viewing the past and present simultaneously, then handles the postulate conflicts in every possible combination in order to rid oneself of all upsets from the past. This will end the game you're playing with your mind. You'll arrive at a no-gain state where you can choose whether or not to play such games again, and if you do, it won't be so serious. You'll be calmer and much happier about life. You don't have to know the whole subject of TROM or understand everything I've covered right away to start benefiting from it. Just learn how to do level 1, and then start. You can listen to the audio instructions in this lecture series, watch the video on our YouTube channel, or visit bettertrom.com for written instructions. Whether you decide to listen, watch, or read, in as little as 15 minutes, you can learn how to do the most fundamental TROM exercise. Then commence the greatest adventure of your life, resolving your mental and spiritual condition. Our program is comprehensive, accessible, and 100% free. I'm Madelyn Tandry. We are DIY Salvation. Don't just use your mind, resolve it.